Okay, part two of criminal profiling and serial killers. And we're looking here at a couple different things, something known as a signature, and then also other things that you'll look for if you went to a crime scene. So here we go. What to look for. One, you're looking for what's called a signature. And a signature is something that's done to fulfill or satisfy the offender's emotional state. So this is where psychology really gets in. Like they might leave something at the scene, they may take something from the scene, and then this has some sort of like emotional connection for the murderer, and that's why they do it. Here's a signature from Psychology Today. It says that some offenders may pose a corpse in a certain position or carve something on the body, insert items, or take a souvenir. It's thought that signatures originate with personality factors rather than arising from what's needed to complete the murder. So signatures have nothing to do with committing the murder. It's some sort of weird, twisted psychological aspect that the offender does. And so when you're going to a crime scene, you're looking for that because then you can tie cases together. A serial killer in India left beer cans next to the victim, while in Greece, another killer stabbed each of four elderly prostitutes exactly 4 times in the neck. A German killer usually left slanted parallel stab wounds, which helped to link his victim. So, again, something that would connect all these victims. Another thing that you might look for is modus operandi. Now, signature is not the same as modus operandi. Modus operandi, by the way, also known as your MO, the way you do things. That's basically what an MO is. And a modus operandi is doing something that's needed to complete the crime. So, MO, what you need to do. Now, also, when you look at the state of a crime scene, this gives clues about the type of offender that you're looking for. And this will tell you a lot about psychologically who they are. So, this is a real clue. And so you're looking, and you might be able to find out the age of the victim. That tells you something. The race of the victim tells you something. By the way, most murders happen within your race. White victims are almost always killed by white offenders, and then black victims are killed by black offenders, so on and so forth. And also, when you look at the scene, you might be able to figure out the motive, like what was going on, who is this person, and maybe where do they live, based on what the crime scene looks like. By the way, it's not always perfect. This isn't like cookie cutter and it always works out exactly. There's always random variations, but at the same time, it does give the police at least an idea, and investigators an idea of what to look for. One of the things that's used a lot, and again, it's not perfect. There are definitely offenders who fit both and kind of overlap this, but in general, you can use this to kind of narrow down some things. So you have organized versus disorganized, and you'll have to do a sort on this after. So organized crime scenes, one, the body is hidden. That again means that they've had some thought process into it. So that tells you something about the person who did this. For example, a serial killer in Australia hid bodies in caves of a vast national forest. This is a picture from where they found some bodies. Weapon is removed from the scene. So the body is hidden, the weapon's removed. It appears well planned. Organized crime scene appears well planned. The victim is specifically target. Ted Bundy, his victims were all in their 20s, had brown hair and a part down the middle. You see the photograph here where these women fit a certain type, and he went after them. And so you notice that about the victim, a specifically targeted victim when it's organized. Restraints are often used. They bring the restraints with them. So that means they were planning to do this ahead of time. Again, that tells you something about the offender. And then also, aggression takes place before death. And I know it's hard to read that, but aggression takes place before death. And so again, they probably torture or do some horrible activity to someone before it happens. Again, because they were planning to do it ahead of time. All right, so organized crime. By the way, if the aggression happens before death, that means that they had control. All right, other side is disorganized, and you're going to not be surprised. It's exact opposite. The body's not hidden. The weapon is present. And by the way, the weapon is probably something that they didn't bring with them, like it's something that was in the scene. So they grabbed a lamp, they used a chair or whatever. They didn't plan it ahead of time. It appears to be spontaneous. They didn't plan to do the crime, but then it happened, and that's why it's disorganized. Victim may be an acquaintance, someone they know. That's also much more likely with a disorganized crime than an organized crime. Aggression is post-mortem. They didn't have control of the scene, so they ended up killing the person first, and then afterwards they did some weird thing, twisted action to the body. So that ends up finishing disorganized. So if you will, go ahead and do the sort for this. So that way you can keep track of organized versus disorganized and signature versus modus operandi. That's really the whole lesson here. Thanks.